creative brains that we can put all the blood aside and put into the go into superhero mode. With the first Injustice, there's inevitably characters that we couldn't include,
right?
And a lot of really angry. Passionate players demanding that they have it, and so this is a good opportunity for us to do that. Like these Atrocitus, Gorilla Grodd, Supergirl. These are the characters that we're kind of introducing here, as well as this big, what we're calling the gear system for the game.
What's that selection process like? Because obviously it involves you, it involves the vocal fans, and then presumably it also involves DC. So how do you come out to get your sort of full deck of characters?
We usually come up with a list that's like 80% of what we ended up being. As we write the story, we have these very detailed kind of cinematic stories that we do. The writers, need characters that they can, a certain amount of villains, certain amount of heroes, and we want to be able to accommodate that. And DC also, joins the conversation, and then of course, the passionate players who really let their points be heard on Twitter and social media.
And through the mailbox and shouting outside your house, I'm sure, and everything.
Exactly.
We're having a look at some gameplay right here. Gorilla Grodd already going at it.
Yes, two of the new additions to our roster. Gorilla Grodd, who's the villain of the Flash, and Atrocitus, who is kind of like a big, angry, bloody Red Lantern, kind of almost like the opposite of Green Lantern. Who's Atrocitus is kind of like an anti-hero, but he's got a lot of anger issues. And but they're so far two of our big brawler characters. Grodd's kind of interesting in that he has these kind of big, gorilla ape moves, but he also has kind of telekinetic moves, which is like kind of like a Kenshi or an Ermac or something like that. It's a great combination of the two.
We'll talk about the gear system in a second, but how is the fighting developed? Is it very much similar to Injustice, the first one we played 2 years ago?
The groundwork is Injustice. I mean, we're with every game we try to add layers for players to kind of learn and master. Like a lot of these. The fighting game tournaments, the hardcore guys, we're really into the whole esports thing. We've been doing with Mortal Kombat X and the first Injustice. We've been participating pretty heavily into the tournament scene, and so we've added a number of kind of like lower level stuff that some players may never quite experience, but the hardcore guys who really want to dig deep can really devour.
Talk to us a little bit about the gear system. So how does this work? Is it just like unlocks? Is it purely aesthetic?
Sure. It's gear, and probably in the simplest of terms, I would describe gear as costume pieces that actually power up your character. So when you finish a fight, we're going to have these drops where basically, and the victory screen also rewards you with this gear, and you have the choice of equipping your character with that gear or not. And so there's a molding, so to speak, of as you keep getting gear, you keep deciding if you want to use it, and you want to focus on offense or defense or enhance certain moves or unlock certain moves, and you'll see here that the gear is being rewarded. And the player has the opportunity to equip their character with that gear right away, or to kind of save it in a like a
vault or
exactly, and then they can equip their player for certain missions or something like that if they really want to beef up their defense or offense or enhance this one move or something like that. And that kind of customization really results in visually and gameplay wise, it's your Grodd, it's your Superman, your Batman, your Aquaman, and that's really the kind of foundation of what we're building our main gameplay around.
Go for a bit.
I've got a question. Who is this rocket-powered cat that keeps flying in from
Atrocitus? He is also, Atrocitus is a Red Lantern. There's a whole spectrum of colors, and he is actually another Red Lantern. His name is Dexstar. It's part of the DC lore, and they're kind of they kind of work together. And so we incorporated him into the fighting. He shoots projectiles.
Oh yeah, look.
He does all these.
Oh man,
he's adorable.
He is.
And then, and we have a.
You're speaking to a good crowd here as well. Two of us are cat lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's awesome. People who know the Atrocitus, kind of backstory and lore will really appreciate his cameo there.
How is the gear stuff going to play into what you were talking about earlier with esports? Are you going to lock that stuff out? Is it,
Yeah, well, certainly, with the gameplay changes are you're going to have a significantly more powerful version of Superman after you've been, gearing him up and leveling him up. So we will obviously have something to level things out for things like tournaments and whatnot, because you don't want to have, somebody coming in with a level 50 Superman against a level 1, Batman or something like that. But we certainly have plans to do like a more level playing field version.
DC are also keeping pretty busy on their own media front. The development of Batman versus Superman, has that affected your development at all, or like even Supergirl, like what they're doing there? Has any of that sort of bled into what you're doing in Injustice?
No. I mean, a lot of what we do is kind of we draw inspiration from the comics and the movies, and the animated shows is a really big one too. But pretty much the development of our stuff is independent of the movies and all that.
Yeah. And it must be fun, I guess. Second time around, there's probably a bit more trust there as well. They've seen what you've done. Like previously, it was like, okay, these crazy Mortal Kombat devs are going to take our DC characters and make them rip each other's throats out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when we were pitching the first game, one of the things I would always say is like, we have no intention of tearing Batman's head off. We have no intention of doing anything, Mortal Kombat like. This our studio is filled with, superhero fans, and so we just love this kind of stuff. With some of the moves we come up with are drawn on inspiration on something we might have seen in the animated series or something like that, and so we love these kind of nods to the stuff. Anybody who's a fan of these characters, you're really going to see how much we love the characters too.
Peter, I know you're a massive Mortal Kombat fan as well. 8 out of 10 on GameSpot. We gave Mortal Kombat X.
We did, yes.
Last year.
Yeah, and actually, I'm very curious. I understand the different series, obviously, but what did developing Mortal Kombat X, and then the reception that followed, how did that inform your approach to Injustice 2, if at all? I have to imagine there's some sort of
after every game, we can kind of take a step back and kind of, ask ourselves, what resonated with people, what could we have done better, and we always kind of accumulate that stuff and put it into it. One of the things that we've always wanted to do, as a studio, what we're always kind of moving towards is allowing the player to have more control over their character. And so, with Mortal Kombat X, we were like, okay, we're going to make 3 versions of these characters.
Right.
You get to choose which one you like. They have differences in terms of their style of gameplay, letting them select it. Now we're kind of like taking the next step of saying, okay, these variables that we're messing with, we're going to give you access to these variables and let you change things around. And then that kind of inspired like the leveling things up. And so this is really like a overall big picture direction that we're going with fighting games. We really feel like, the more customization and things that players feel like they're involved in growing of these characters, the more, it's just a more fun experience.
Does the gear system purely work within the limits of the game, or is there a microtransactions element to that as well?
No, well, we haven't. Honestly, we're really just getting the whole system up and ready. We haven't really had any discussions about like microtransactions and whatnot. I think big picture wise, we really want an experience that is just long lasting. We just want somebody to, like, when you start playing your game, your Supergirl is just a completely different character than what it ends up being gameplay wise and visually. It's not a creative character thing. We definitely don't want to like give the impression like we're changing the nose shape and doing all these kind of things like that. But as far as like the way you want your character to play, it is still fundamentally Supergirl, but it is you controlling the variables that we're exposing to you.
You guys have got a sort of a great little staple of games that people are enjoying in terms of fighting games. You've got the Mortal Kombat series, which has come to life in the past 5 years again. You've got Injustice. Are you guys sort of locked into those now on a biannual cycle?
It's been that way so far, but I don't think we've had like this kind of big picture plan. That's just how it's kind of worked out. It's interesting, with Mortal Kombat X, we've had the most downloadable characters,
Right.
Pretty recently, we introduced, Alien and Leatherface and all that stuff. And so
Triborg.
Exactly. And those have been featured in, like, we just had the ESL tournament this last Saturday. It was like $200,000 in prizes. And I was there, and it was the first time that I was like, we were talking about Mortal Kombat, and then Injustice has since been introduced, so I was bouncing between the two games. But I think as we continue to support these games for a longer period of time, that may affect, the release of the next game. Just because we really want the games just to be a longer lasting experience and new content coming.
Is there going to be a really large, robust story mode like we saw in Mortal Kombat?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every game we really try to kind of up the previous ones as far as like that whole cinematic presentation, and then it sets up the fight, and then the player participates with that. We're adding some really cool twists that we're gonna probably towards the end of the year we'll be talking a little bit more about the story mode and some of the changes we're making to it. But it is going to have that really, that big cinematic experience.
And are all these sort of like story details therein concocted by your team, or are they pulled directly from the comics and the animated?
Well, it is from this universe that I guess we kind of created. DC it's awesome how they have the multiverse.
Yeah.
So we can say, okay, in our version of the multiverse, Superman's this dictator, Batman's taking him down, Superman kills Shazam, and all of these things, and that has kind of spawned the comic book, which has been like, it's become like this its own thing, which has really elaborated on that lore. So we're going to continue in that story.
Gotcha.
Continue that whole thing. So the comic was like the pre-chapter. First game is the first chapter. Second game is the second chapter. It's a lot of cool stuff coming.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you get involved in that stuff yourself a lot? Mortal Kombat always feels like it has a lot of Ed Boon in it in terms of, like these are characters who you've been crafting for, 20 years, I guess.
Yeah, over 20 years.
Is it the same for Injustice as well? Or
it's the, like I said, it's we have a studio of 150 people who just love superhero things, and so it's all big collaborative effort in terms of the story writing, the game features, the design, what the characters do. It's a very involved process. We have in Mortal Kombat, we have fatality meetings. Somebody stands up, talks about how, and
I think you should rip out his butthole. Is that what it's like?
I don't think that's ever been said, but stuff to that nature.
I should get in those
meetings.
meetings. Yeah. I got loads of those.
You should attend.
They're all butthole related, though.
There's a bunch of questions coming through from the chat as well, mostly about is X in game, but also some other folks wondering, are you guys going to be using GGPO? For this as well?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that Mortal Kombat XL introduced was this rollback system that dramatically improves the online experience.
Right.
Everything that we've learned, we're applying into Injustice 2, so it's going to have a great online netcode.
How many characters were in Injustice at launch?
I think we started with 24 and we added 6, and then we ended with like 30, not including like some of the guest skins and stuff like that.
So presumably you're going to do something similar for Injustice
at
2?
the very least. MK9, Injustice, MKX have all added to the previous games in terms of DLC characters and kind of long-term support, and we plan on continuing that direction with Injustice.
What do you think the sweet spot is for that? Because obviously, like, gamers are very, reticent when it comes to DLC and thinking like, I bought this game for X amount and it doesn't have everything I want. But I haven't seen that much of a backlash with those games specifically. Is there some sort of trick to it? Is it about having a decent amount of characters that they want up front, or?
I think like we've never had like a character that was on the disc, done, and we asked you, to when we release the game, we are knee deep in working on the DLC,
right?
And so just in order to release a game that has more characters like that, we have to do we have to continue working on it. It's like a long process after the game is launched.
All right. And we have some more gear here. What type of gear are we looking at?
Oh,
chest plates, crowns.
Yeah, Kryptonian Crown. Superman. There's like this headgear that actually represents one of the looks that he has in our stories. Like, he's a little bit more of a dictator. And so we have elements that let you kind of craft Superman that looks like that. We have a chest that is the Red Sun Superman. You can equip your guy with that and have him look like that. So you notice that Superman's wearing it now, and so that enhances. You can do things like have a little bit more damage with environment, or a little bit more blocking damage, or enhance a certain special move. You can unlock a special move. It's really like I said, it really gets customized.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you taking time to join us here on the GameSpot stage. When will we be playing Injustice 2?
You will definitely be playing in 2017, and we'll probably narrow it down in the next few months.
Sometime next year.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for watching. We have loads more games coming up over the next couple of hours. Watch Dogs 2, Tekken 7.